The BBC's annual Comic Relief fundraiser raised £34 million last week, and while you might say that's an impressive haul, critics rightfully highlighting that it actually represents yet another significant drop in donations. So the TV fundraiser hit an all-time high in 2011 with nearly £109 million raised, but since then there's been a steady decline, thanks in large part to Labour loudmouth David Lammy. So first writing in 2017, the MP for Tottenham described the Red Nose Days concept as tired and patronising to Africans after Ed Sheeran was filmed helping impoverished kids in Liberia. And his uncharitable woke crusade continued in 2019 when he slammed presenter Stacey Dooley as a white saviour before doubling down on his attack in an interview with Victoria Derbyshire.
Evokes for lots and lots of ethnic minorities in Britain a colonial image, a white, beautiful heroine holding a black child with no agency, no parents in sight, finger in the mouth. Actually, if I had my children posing, I'd never have them with a finger in the mouth, completely supine. And I'm afraid it perpetuates an image. So it's not that the charity isn't good, but Comic Relief is doing very little to educate.
Well, congratulations, Mr. Lammy. Thanks to your woke virtue signalling, the once great charity's fundraising figures have plummeted, look at that, by 2/3. Fleet Street legend Kelvin MacKenzie joins me now. Kelvin, it really does feel like David Lammy's woke intervention has killed off a brilliant charity fundraiser. Well done to him.
Right. OK, well, so there are two significant aspects to this. First of all, now we don't have white saviours, right? It was a good piece of television. Nobody was thinking that a skint country could go to, i.e., the United Kingdom, can go overseas anymore and offer any money to anybody. We haven't got any money to offer anybody. You know, it's got nothing to do with that. So it was kind of racism on his part. But secondly, the issue now is that the films they do make are about skint Leeds, skint Preston, skint Addleston, skint Southampton. So all that's happened is that we've shown how poor we are. Well, we know how poor we are. Therefore, people don't give any money. So they didn't like it. Why should you feel bad about giving money, which is going to go to a decent home for somebody in another country? Why are we made to feel bad about it? Who is the racist in this argument? He used the word white. As far as I know, Comic Relief never, ever used the word. Yeah, obviously the images were black because obviously they were raising money for people who are poverty-stricken. 9 of the 10 poorest countries on earth are in Africa. So why wouldn't you want to go from a wealthy country and raise some money and send it to a poorer country? What on earth is wrong with that? I'll tell you what's wrong with it. It's in Lammy's mind. Lammy's no fool. He's playing the race card in order to shore up, I suspect, the Labour Party in some kind of argument that white people vote Tory, but black people should vote Labour. It is completely unacceptable. So what's the effect? Is Comic Relief is going to die. Now, look, I agree. It was one of the arguments, right? So I was the first person to write about this. OK, apart from you, Dan, nobody has shown the slightest interest.
Yeah.
Why?
Because you don't want to touch
mainstream media, their whole point is, for God's sake, don't report anything which is going to cause a problem. Well, it's not the people who have caused the problem. The person who caused the problem was Lammy.
I know that they're too terrified to cover this story. You know why. But what has happened, Kelvin, as a direct result of Lammy's attack on Stacey Dooley, because I agree with everything you've said, but the other thing that's happened is that A-list celebrities run a mile now. They don't want anything to do with Comic Relief. So you've got all of these crap D-list celebrities on that show now because the Ed Sheerans of this world say, hang on a moment, I'm not going to risk this. I'm not going to risk David Lammy calling me a white saviour and doing me PR damage. So Lammy has actually caused so much damage to Comic Relief. And Comic Relief actually should have hit back rather than giving in like they do.
Well, do you know what surprises me? That they didn't send James O'Brien out to Africa and Owen Jones to be the best bloody place for them. Huh? At least they get a good welcome out there. They won't get one over here unless, of course, unless you happen to send your kids to the same private school as James O'Brien. And James O'Brien, why don't you respond to that? Every time I make that point, he keeps very bloody quiet.
Very good point.
Anyway, I don't wish to be unkind towards James O'Brien. He's got enough problems of his own. So, at the end of the day, why wouldn't even the Daily Mail run it? It is totally beyond me. It is beyond me. There are so many stories now, which actually. So, in the end of the day, mainstream media, with a couple of exceptions, is literally going to collapse. I mean, and because they do not represent, they're not even prepared to put one side of the argument against the other and see what happens. So Lammy, in a funny way, has won. He has won. Yeah. He's destroyed comic relief.
Destroyed comic relief. He's not going to have any white saviours anymore. No, exactly. You're not going to see any white saviours. Good work, David Lammy, you fool.